Hi, everyone, and welcome to my talk. I'm Tara Lepori, or Taramina, and I am co-presenting with my sister, Katrina Lepori, who is a neurodiverse adult. This talk discusses neurodiverse accessibility in paleontology, specifically a case study at an adult day program for neurodiverse adults, where we created a small paleontology exhibit and will particularly focus on self-advocacy as a method of inclusion for groups like my sisters. So I'd like to start with this quote from Temple Grandin. Temple Grandin is an autism self-advocate and researcher, and she says, "The world needs all types of minds." And this is very true. Science in general and paleontology in particular is really enriched by a diversity of thinking and a diversity of life backgrounds and attention to learning needs in our fields. Now, throughout the talk, I'll refer to the concept of accessibility. Accessibility in paleontology education and science communication allows more minds to feel welcome in science. Accessibility is a concept that results in accommodating a resource or a physical place so that it is equitably reached, entered, or utilized by people with disabilities. So accessibility accommodations can refer to a number of different things, including neurodiversity, sensory diversity, mobility diversity, and learning needs. But for this talk, we're going to focus in on neurodiversity. So what is that? Neurodiversity is a concept where neurological differences are to be recognized and respected as with any other human variation. So neurodiversity in this context is a self-identifier. Neurodiversity is also diversity that refers to a variation in human social capabilities, learning, attention, mood, or other mental functions in a non-pathological sense. So by that, really no cure is sought or even possible, even if daily modifications are sometimes used to assist individuals. Now, this can refer to a number of different subtypes of neurodiversity. This list is not all encompassing, but we can break this list down into three major components. The first being developmental neurodiversity, physical neurodiversity, and behavioral, emotional, or mental neurodiversity. So how can we really best serve the growing needs of neurodiverse visitors to paleontology museums and learners who are neurodiverse at large? There's an average of 6 to 7 million reported neurodiverse individuals in the United States, and that's just in the last 20 years, while 13 million adults in the US reported some form of cognitive disability. So thinking about the number of people who we can reach and who really have a right to have this accessibility, we think about the focus in on self-advocacy to bring people into the conversation. So jumping off of that, another way of kind of thinking about self-advocacy is to consider a neurodiversity-based approach or a neurodiversity-centric approach to science education, which considers the whole individual and their learning needs. So this can help learners really maximize their strengths and tackle social, emotional, cognitive, and academic challenges. There are, of course, barriers to full disability or neurodiversity inclusion. What do they consist of? Well, they may be attitudinal or low expectations that undermine the confidence of neurodiverse individuals. There might be environmental barriers that might actually prevent access to a physical place. Some policy-based or institutional barriers may include that might not actively invite neurodiverse individuals into the fold. There might be a lack of data and a lack of consultation when planning for educational initiatives. So how can we break down these barriers? Well, step one is to incorporate something called inclusive design, which there's an entire literature on, but inclusive design or universal design is a way of actually producing content that embraces full accessibility for all people. So it seeks to create or modify products or resources so that they're easily accessed or used by everyone. And when that happens, not just people with accessibility needs win, but really everyone does. And the second step is to invite people to be self-advocates. And this is my sister Katrina, who is the associate paleontologist for this project. So the goals of this project, with all of this in mind, were to provide hands-on activities in paleontology for a wide range of verbal and nonverbal neurodiverse adults, ages 22 to 60, in a day work program for life skills assistance. We also tried to create opportunities for self-advocacy and exhibit design with special needs adults or neurodiverse adults. And we also practiced implementing augmented reality or AR as a testing ground for informal education accessibility in the designed exhibit. So just some background, in the United States at age 18 to 22, neurodiverse students in moderate to severe life skills programs typically age out of public school systems and transition to group homes, day work programs, and other life skills training. So this study occurred in a day program for life skills training. And we implemented some augmented reality or AR. And this kind of tool is really fun. It's really interesting. It's also a great tool for increasing accessibility for people with disabilities. So you can aim your phone or a tablet at an exhibit, and with an AR app, you can actually pull up 3D digital interactives that make a really fun experience and also help people in terms of accessibility. Why augmented reality? Lots of studies have been done to think about why this is important. A shout out to former co-worker on this kind of project, Gabe Santos, who has implemented these kinds of things in museums in the past. But really, there are many, many ways in which AR can help. And we're going to focus in on helping nonverbal and non-reading individuals who want to try to access museum exhibits for paleontology. So the first thing we did is we had a hands-on activity set for enrichment, and some of that went into the exhibit display. So if some of the individuals did not want to work on the actual exhibit that we created, they were able to have some fun hands-on activities. So we had fossil sorting, we had a card game that was fossil kind of matching, and so that was really fun. We had some invertebrate fossils that were matched. And these individuals were having a really fun time, kind of just sorting through by size and by different fossil types. And of course, the card game was pretty fun too. We made a model Tyrannosaur out of just a plastic model that was really fun. And the labels that you see here are very basic. There's an upgraded version with better labels, but this exhibit had every piece of it that was created was made by neurodiverse adults. Here's some folks again making the plastic T-Rex model that went on top of the exhibit. We also had some plaster molds that were made of different fossil images. I don't have any pictures of the actual plaster because our hands were covered in plaster. It was great fun. And here is the display of the museum exhibit at the front entrance. And everything in here was a product of self-advocacy where people were asked, hey, you know, what would you like to see in a paleontology museum exhibit? And what kinds of things would make this easier for you? So we also created some augmented reality. This is a video that I won't play here, but if we click on it, it comes up with an image of my face saying this is a Tyrannosaurus Rex. So using a smartphone or tablet, this would allow accessibility for nonverbal or non-reading individuals to understand what this animal is. And there's another video here that when this augmented reality is played on top of or run on top of a piece of Triceratops frill bone, a little image of a Triceratops pops up. So it's another visual way of explaining what's happening in the exhibit without relying on the text. So what did participants tell us about museums in general and paleontology museums in particular? They said often museums are too loud, crowds can cause sensory overload and be uncomfortable for some of them, but big skeletons are cool and touchable objects are very good. What are some future directions for this kind of work? Well, utilizing augmented reality to think about text to picture overlays that would allow an exhibit text to be pictogrammed in a way where non-reading individuals could access the material in a slightly different way. We could also formalize studies of the effects of exhibit self-advocacy on special needs or neurodiverse learners, and are these experiences making a noticeable difference? And we'd like to also think about making a kind of two-way street where some common apps that are used for individuals to communicate in museums, where they kind of have a tablet and they poke an icon and that will allow them to ask a question. Can there be downloadable packages preset for paleontology? And we're really excited to have even more exciting exhibit items on display for augmented reality, and that will be implemented in the coming year. So there are many options for special needs inclusion in museum settings. Some here that relate to augmented reality are interactives. Also having tactile museum maps and descriptive small group tours or private tours in a low noise, distraction free or reduced setting, and having sensory friendly museum days. There are many references here, which I can provide on request. And I'd really like to thank everyone at the Adult Day program who was involved in this wonderful project. I'd love to thank the session organizers for hosting this great session. I'd like to thank GSA and SVP for some funding, and the folks at the Communitas Day Program Center who work with all of these wonderful individuals. And of course, my sister Katrina, who is my associate paleontologist and very much enthusiastic about continuing to learn about fossils. Thank you very much, and feel free to contact me if you have any other questions about this project.